All right, hello everybody. Frankie here with your fourth stimulus update and related news. I want to take you directly to Joe Manchin, who is holding up this whole entire stimulus package and says he will not vote on the $3.5 trillion stimulus package, also known as the Build Back Better reconciliation bill.
West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin. Senator Manchin, thanks for joining us this morning. You know, you've called for a strategic pause on the president's Build Back Better plan, the $3.5 trillion plan. But party leaders, from the president to Speaker Pelosi to Leader Schumer, have all rejected that call for a pause. Schumer says it's full speed ahead in the Senate. It can't pass the Senate without your vote. So where do things stand right now?
Well, George, I've been very clear, I think, and I think a strategic pause is necessary right now. We have the unknown, and the unknown is everything you've been talking about. COVID, what's going to happen with COVID, what it'll do to the economy. No one's talking about inflation or debt, and we should have that as part of the discussion. And then the geopolitical, what's going on around the world and what type of challenges we may face. So the unknown is there, and we don't know what that's going to partake. What we do know is that basically the need for this, the emergency to do something in the next week is not there. We've done $5.4 trillion, George, over the last year and about a year and a half. $5.4 trillion. A lot of that money is still going out the door. There's no one going to be left behind for the rest of this year and most of next year. So the urgency, I can't understand why we can't take time, deliberate on this and work.
Back in January, you proposed spending $4 trillion on infrastructure. So what changed?
Well, you're talking about that was about 4.5 trillion they had talking about. Is that what you're talking about? What the
president? Yeah, you were saying we've spent about
having both of those put together. And I said from day one, these are two complete different categories. The one we have in front of us right now that's already passed in a bipartisan way with 19 Republicans, George, is the hardcore infrastructure, the roads, the bridges, internet, water, sewer, all the things that have been neglected for the last 30 years. The president went out and campaigned on this. He went out and sold this thing. We all got behind him. We had a bipartisan deal. And I think it's the greatest thing that we could do. That's the one that has the urgent and emergency that we have. Let's get that one done. It's sitting over in the House right now.
But if the bill is fully paid for and doesn't add to the deficit, the unknown that you're concerned about, one of them is inflation. That's not really a concern, is it, if the bill is fully paid for?
Well, George, basically, if the bill is fully paid for, why did they put $1.7 trillion of borrowing power in the language? And next of all, it's only run out for 10 years, okay? So if some of the things we know will never go off, so you should be more accurate to what the real number is going to be. I'm just saying right now, George, we're at $28.750 billion, $28,750,000,000, and it goes up $4 to $5 billion every day. No one's even talking. Inflation. People are talking to me in West Virginia about the price of gas, the price of everything they buy, including their groceries, how it's affecting them. So I think we need to see what we're doing right now and the effects we're having. No one is saying they're losing their benefits because they're going to extend up through next year. Why are we rushing for this 1 week? Why do we have to have everything done in 1 week?
You mentioned the bipartisan infrastructure bill that has the support of Republican senators, but it's also drawn the opposition of progressives who don't think it should happen unless there's also progress on the bigger reconciliation bill. Here's a tweet last night from Senator Bernie Sanders, who's coming up on the program next. We're not going to build bridges just so our people can live under them. No infrastructure bill without the $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill. Are you concerned we're going to end up with nothing?
I just respectfully disagree with Bernie. I've never seen us in legislation. I never thought the purposes of the progress that we make in legislation was basically hold one hostage over the other. You have a bipartisan bill in the most toxic atmosphere that we've ever had politically. The president has pushed on this, and he says, we're going to do this bipartisan. It's in the House right now. We could pass that one, and we can still go on to reconciliation. We can debate it. We can discuss it. We can have hearings on it. Make sure whatever we do it and do it right and don't put more out there that's not needed or basically put ourselves further in debt. We can have those discussions, but why would you hold something that's as needed as this, as far as the hard infrastructure, that's been basically neglected for 30 years and just sit back and say, well, we can't do that. If you don't need bridges fixed or roads fixed in your state, I do in West Virginia. I need internet in West Virginia. I got water and sewage problems. I've got all the problems that we have addressed in the bipartisan infrastructure bill. And that's the one that has the emergency.
So what's your bottom line? How long should the pause last? And what's the most you would accept in a final reconciliation bill?
Chuck, I know that, George, everyone's putting a timetable and putting a hard cap. Shouldn't we, first of all, the reason we're on reconciliation, I voted to go on reconciliation because I believed that the 2017 tax codes were weighted to the high-end and wealthy. I believed it was weighted unfairly with the working people, and I thought we needed to make some adjustments. But I'm not going to make adjustments on how much I want to spend. I'm going to make the tax adjustments on what I think keeps us competitive, looking at the global rates, looking at things that we're doing, making sure the wealthy are paying, making sure all corporations are paying something to have the privilege of doing business in America. I think all that needs to be done. And we ought to see what kind of money that spends off and then basically match that up with the highest priorities and needs we have. That's all I've asked for, and we haven't had that honest debate.
So you can see there, Joe, at his best again, doing this, trying to derail the whole thing. But I don't think it's going to happen. I think Bernie and the president are going to come around and at least talk Manchin into a higher price tag than 1.5 trillion, which he wants. Now, let me take you to Senator Bernie Sanders.
Thanks for joining us as well. You just heard Senator Manchin right there. He said he just respectfully disagrees. We shouldn't hold this bipartisan infrastructure package hostage to the reconciliation bill.
Well, I think maybe the converse is true, that maybe Senator Manchin is holding the reconciliation bill hostage. As you know, George, from day one, the President of the United States, the Speaker of the House, Majority Leader Schumer, have made it clear we're going down a two-track approach. Both bills are going together. I happen to think that Joe Manchin is right. Physical infrastructure is terribly important. But I happen to think that the needs of the human beings of our country, working families, the children, the elderly, the poor, are even more important. And we can and must do both. Look, everybody in America, whether you're Republican, Democrat, or Independent, understands that for the last many years, the very richest people in this country and the largest corporations have done phenomenally well, while the working class and the middle class of this country struggle. And we got close to 600 million people sleeping out on the streets. Elderly people in America can't afford to put dentures into their mouth. They have no teeth in their mouth in some cases, can't afford hearing aids, can't afford eyeglasses. Working families cannot afford childcare for their kids. Young people cannot afford to go to college. And then on top of all of that, the scientific community is telling us that we're looking at a cataclysmic crisis in terms of climate. Oregon is burning. California is burning. People are drowning in New York City. Detroit, flooding. Siberia, largest fire on Earth. Drought all over the world. The United States must lead the world in transforming our energy system away from fossil fuel. This is a crisis. So what polling tells us is working families all over this country understand that now is the time for Congress to address the long neglected problems facing working families. Now is the time to have the wealthy and large corporations. We got billionaires in this country who don't pay a nickel in federal income taxes. So I think we can do all of this. We can do the physical infrastructure. We can do the reconciliation bill, create millions of good jobs, and finally tell the American people that we are going to stand up for working families, not just the rich and the powerful.
I guess the question I have is how. There's no margin for error in the Senate. If you vote against it, it doesn't pass. If Senator Manchin votes against it, it doesn't pass. I mean, so you're likely, if you both stick to your positions, you're going to end up with nothing.
That is a possibility. And I think that would be a disaster for the American people. But you got the President of the United States. You got leadership in the House and the Senate. You got this is not Joe Manchin versus Bernie Sanders. I would surmise that over 90% of Democrats, over 40 Democrats in the Senate, would prefer to spend what I propose, $6 trillion, because they understand the needs facing working families and climate are so great. So a major compromise has already been made. And there is a real danger that this bill will lose, that the infrastructure bill will lose in the House, because you got many people there, and I support them, who are saying, you know what, we had a joint agreement. We're going to go forward together, deal physical infrastructure, deal with the needs of working families. Let's do it. Let's create the jobs. Let's deal with an expansion of Medicare. Let's deal with climate. That's what we've got to do.
But is no bill? Let's say Senator Manchin wouldn't put a timeline on it, but he's come out for about $1.5 trillion in the reconciliation bill. Is no bill better than $1.5 trillion?
Look, what the issue is here is when you have an overwhelming majority of working families in America who want us to do that. When you got the president, when you got over 90% of the people in the House, over 90% of the senators want to do it. The real question you should be asking is it appropriate for one person to destroy two pieces of legislation? Look, Joe Manchin has the right to get his views heard. He's a member of the United States Senate from the great state of West Virginia. He has to sit down with all of us and we'll work it out. Now, we did, as you know, we had the same exact problem in the American Rescue Plan, which to my mind was enormously successful in getting us out of the economic recession that took place as a result of COVID. And Joe Manchin and others are going to have, the Republicans are going to have to say, well, why are we not extending this $300 direct payment that working parents are now receiving? Do we want to really rescind that when we have cut childhood poverty by half? So I don't think that Joe wants to do that. I think we're going to work it out. But it would really be a terrible, terrible shame for the American people if both bills went down. And that is a real danger.
So bottom line, there is going to be a deal. Both bills are going to pass?
I believe they will, yes. I think we have the same problem with the American Rescue Plan. We worked together. We did it. I think we're going to do it again.
Senator Sanders, thanks for your time this morning.
So you can see there's a lot of opposition. There's a lot of shame on Joe Manchin right now. He's kind of acting like a Mitch McConnell. He is a moderate Democrat, so you have to remember that. Kind of a dino, a Democrat in name only. You know the rhinos and the dinos in politics. Rhinos are Republicans in name only. Dinos are Democrats in name only. Well, Joe's one of those who's a Democrat in name only, and he's acting more like a Republican. Especially now, he wants 1.5 trillion. That's it. All the way down from 3.5 trillion. There's not space right there. So something's going to happen major here in the next few days to be able to talk him into this. So that's all I got. That's all the information I got for the next couple of days. I'm just going to let it rest, and I'll be on here probably Thursday again for more information. Thanks for watching, everybody, and have a great day.